Hello, welcome back to All For United WFC. I apologise for laughing right from the off. If people don't know what StreamYard, which is the platform we use, I can see everybody backstage before we go live. While that intro was playing there, and Barry had his lookalike of me holding it up to the camera, so it was putting me off before we. Hence the slight delay on pressing the intro there.
What an accusation!
And I knew I was going to start laughing as soon as we went live. I got it out of the way now, so it's fine. There we go. But yes, welcome back to the channel. Laura is back, and congratulations, Laura, because with England making it to the final, that means you've made it to the final as well. In terms of All For United appearances, you made it all the way to the end. You've done the pre-tournament, Lionesses show, every match reaction, and all the way through to the final. So you can't miss Sundays now. So you've got to be on it. Win or lose. And we have somebody who's been in the chat for the last couple of weeks as well, a new viewer, I guess, of the channel. So, Kimberly, thanks for coming on as well. Hope you're well. The only one of us, I believe, wearing an England shirt, which is poor on the rest of us, unless Laura has got it on. Oh, she has. Couldn't see it down there. So, thanks for coming on the channel. I know we've got a Man United Arsenal split here. We've got two kind of Arsenal reps and two United reps. So, the Russo goal will be an interesting. It was a good finish, to be fair. We'll talk about that in a bit. But before we actually get to talking about the game itself, we'll do the usual to go through the game itself and don't go through all those talking points. Just come to each of you in terms of how you're feeling from a fan point of view, in terms of what this means, seeing the Lionesses get to the final, and just your kind of emotions post-game, before we talk about the specifics of the game. So, Barry, come to yourself first. Just your kind of thoughts as a fan of watching this England side. We know obviously what happened last summer, going all the way, winning the Euros, and now 12 months later, sat here with a World Cup final as well.
I'm gobsmacked, really, because, as you'll know, I didn't think we were getting this far. You've just got to tip your hat, really, haven't you? I spent a lot of time being grumpy, thinking we weren't going to make it. I'd like to think that has manifested into what it's turned into, and that's the universe just trying to stick its fingers up at me. But I can't really believe it. It doesn't feel real. I was trying to think of the teams that we beat last year and the teams that we've beaten this year, and they're sort of remarkably similar, really, in some ways. So I think it's just pride more than anything else. It was such an underdog thing to go and do, to have the amount of injuries that we had, to be as worried as we were going into the tournament, to just have that mentality and that spirit, that sort of never say die mentality to go on and win these games. Absolutely brilliant. So, yeah, delighted, buzzing. Can't believe we've got a World Cup final. I didn't think I'd ever live to see a World Cup final. And here I am, ready to watch one. I think it's absolutely bloody marvellous, Connor.
It certainly is. I mean, Laura, for yourself, you were obviously on that show with me and Barry when we spoke about Lionesses. We said we'd be happy with kind of quarterfinals. If we scrape through to the semi-finals, great. But, yeah, I mean, obviously we'll talk about the game in just a little bit in terms of specifics, but pretty comfortable in the end, considering how England have played throughout this tournament. But yeah, just your kind of emotions post game and what this means to you as a fan watching this England side.
Yeah, I know. There's not. You can't really be anything but just really, really happy. But I think today more than any other game just made me super excited to be an England fan, and I really felt behind the team today more than I have done during any other game. And maybe that's just me, but I think the way they played today, the way that the performance they put on today, and the kind of just the overall, I think that the thing of playing against Australia, there's a lot of hype before it, playing against the hosts, underdog in that sense, silencing the crowd, this team that obviously has suffered injuries, has suffered those losses, and have still pulled through. And yes, maybe till this point have scraped through a little bit and have not been overawed by their performances, but to see them come out today, and it really felt like they just took the game to Australia, and it's just a really exciting performance to watch. And I think overall for women's football, it's just a really exciting thing because it's absolutely captured Australia. And in some ways, I mean, the rivalry, I really didn't want to lose to Australia, but at the same time, it's kind of sad that a tournament that has captured that nation clearly, like the amount of people interested in that you're seeing. I think there's another stadium almost full, like watching the game in an empty stadium, which was just incredible to see. and just to see, having followed women's football for like over 10 years, it's staggering to see like there's fan parks in England. Box Park was full. Like just seeing all that now, and we're in a World Cup final, and no one can doubt the women's team anymore. It's really incredible to be a part of, I think.
No, you certainly. We'll speak a little bit actually on Australia because it is worth obviously talking about them. You know, you mentioned obviously the impact it's had there. I know from people that have been over there, and talking about you literally cannot move. There's just Australia, women's football stuff everywhere you go at the moment in there, which is great to see as well. So we will talk a little bit about Australia because it is worth obviously talking about them and the impact that it's had there. But Kimberly, for yourself, what do you your emotions post game? I know that you did manage to catch it just about, watched it with a bit of multitasking involved, but your emotions post game as well.
Yeah, just really excited, I think. Yeah, as you said, I had to multitask a little bit because I was in a work meeting, so I had to split screen and try to be present on what was happening there as well. But yeah, just really excited and even proud of how far the team has come. They had such adversity during the tournament. Everybody expected a blowout win against Haiti, and that didn't happen. And they grinded out all those wins, and I think that was I think this game was one of the better ones they've played, actually, with the new system and just seeing players like Hemp and Russo really thrive with the two up top. I think, yeah, it's just great to watch, and it's just remarkable that Sarina Wiegman has now she's been to 2 World Cup finals with 2 different nations. Got to won the Euros with both national teams as well. I think, she's her and her staff are so good, and they just made this team so resilient and determined. And I think, it's that passion for England, and nothing gets out of the camp, but also nothing really gets in. So it's just doing what they're supposed to do. And I think, the confidence speaks for itself right now. And if you hear the post-match interviews with Georgia, with Lauren, I think, it just shows how much belief they have in each other. And, they're just really a team. And I think, there's nothing you can want more as a fan than to have, a proper team fighting for each other and fighting for, to win it for their country.
No, for sure. Obviously, you mentioned Sarina. It's definitely worth. We're going to talk about her in a little bit as well, because how England, and I said this, I think, after the group stage, is that she is a master. She was anyway pre-tournament. Somebody mentioned in the chat, Sporty mentioned in the chat, 4 consecutive major finals now, 2 different teams. It's ridiculous how she gets the players, playing for it. As I said, system changes mid-tournament. When do you ever see that from sides, and actually look better off doing it as well? So being able to have that adaptability has been crazy as well. But Barry, for yourself, we'll start with the game itself then. I'm not going to mention the lineup like I usually do, because it's the same lineup which we expected, obviously, with James being out and so on. That England's first half performance, it was relatively comfortable for the most part. Were you a little bit surprised by that? Were you happy with England's first half performance? Obviously, we know we got the goal. We'll talk about that in a second as well. But just how England started the game, obviously, we know that somebody got a yellow card early on. Was it Greenwood? I think, off memory. I'm trying to remember back to 11 o'clock this morning. But obviously got that yellow card early on. But what did you make of England's first half overall?
Just before I get to that, just on what the girls have just said, Laura's mentioned about the fan parks. I went on Sky News at half time, and Sky News were literally showing just a camera on a bunch of fans watching it on a screen. You couldn't see the screen. You were literally just watching the fans. And I just sort of felt to myself, who sat there when it's on the telly watching the fans watch the game? Why do we need a very strange thing from Sky News there? So that one was a bit odd. And also on Wiegman herself, she's been unbelievable. I mean, I've questioned her a lot this year, for this tournament. And I've done it on this very channel. I will never agree with her decision on the defence, but she's worked it well. She's done really, really well. And I think what was really interesting about that is you often get the conversation about, when it comes to national managers, whether or not they should be foreign managers or whether or not they should be managers of the same nationality. And I think that's a really interesting discussion to have now, because you're sitting there and looking at what Sarina's done, and it just shows you the exact reason why foreign managers can be such a positive thing to bring into a club. So we all had to endure Sven-Goran Eriksson, which was the antithesis, the opposite to what Serena Wiegmann has managed to do. So yeah, that was just wanted to add to that really.
So sorry, you just raised a really good point actually. Before you move on to the first, because we've actually got the perfect person in Kimberly to talk about Serena. If you're talking about people from different nationalities, obviously her being Dutch coming over to manage England. Well, Kimberly, you're the ideal person for this, having obviously living in obviously Holland yourself, also obviously connections to England as well. So you're probably the ideal person for that one. I don't really know what the question is, but it's off the back of
argument, I suppose the argument is that for England players, you have to be either English or have like direct descendants who are English, effectively. So grandparents have to have had English nationality to be able to do that, and that's just the rules. But those rules don't apply for managers. So I suppose really on that one, the question would be, should that be the case? Because another argument is how do you get the passion for it? When you're English or whether you're French and you're managing the French team, presumably you have that sense of pride and therefore you want the team to do well. But the one thing I would say about Serena is she doesn't seem to care what nationality she is. She just wants to win. And she's quite happy either way. So could you dispel that rumour?
Well, I think it's also like she's just, her way of communication, I think it's the Dutch way, but it can be a bit ruthless. We're quite direct in how we tell people what we want or what we expect of them. And I think she's more than being a tactical mastermind. She's like the ultimate person or people manager, I think. Everybody in the squad knows what's their role, if they're going to play a lot or not, or if they're just there to support the team. And I think the clear communication, it's something that a lot of players actually spoke about after the Euros as well. It's like that directness which helps them even. And I think in this case, it really worked out well with having a foreign manager, but vice versa, we got an English manager in the Netherlands, and it was, it just didn't work at all. It was just the players couldn't handle the way the meetings were. They were long. Was a lot of information, and so I think it just depends on really the connection, and I think you've got to be a bit lucky, but I think as well people management is, I think, more important even than being a tactical mastermind of the game.
No, certainly
manager, no doubt about that.
And well, you can see that pre and post games, with how close the kind of whole squad is with that one. We'll come back to talking about Serena in more detail. I just thought it was worth mentioning, obviously, off the back of what you just said there, Barry. But what do you make on the first half from England there?
Well, I'm not going to lie to you, Connor. I missed the first 10 minutes because I was coming back from the shop. So I had to listen to that on the radio, but it was very exciting. They did a great job of explaining what was going on to me. But from the minute I got in, it was a tight game, I felt, but it was a good tempo. Both sides seemed to be pushing for it. And I just think we'd set ourselves out a certain way. You're right. It did seem a lot easier in the first half than it did in the second. I think they were struggling to get Sam Kerr into the game in the manner that they would have liked to. Like I say, I was still gobsmacked. I still sit there and wonder how it is that Rachel Daly, and I checked this, she scored more goals last season than both Hemp and Russo put together. But she's still not given a chance to play up front. And it's things like that just make me go absolutely crazy. But then you get Serena Wiegmann doing what she's done, and you just go, well, what does Barry from Stevenage know? Absolutely nothing. And I do keep telling you I've not got my UEFA badges. So, that's very much the case. But listen, superb, brilliant first half, built really well. Obviously, the second half was a lot better and much more noteworthy. But I think as far as that first half went, we seemed relatively at ease, but without creating like a huge amount of chance. There was a couple of opportunities. Toone and Russo were starting to click together again. Obviously, Toone's forgiven her for going off to the enemy, and therefore, was willing to give her the ball again and just at the right time.
It's going to be interesting to talk about Russo today, because we're kind of saying backstage we got an Arsenal United 2-each split here on the panel, so this is going to be quite good, quite interesting. But Laura, for yourself on the first half, it's coming here saying that they all did their job. Was that kind of how you saw it as well? And also kind of England almost keeping their cool in that first half when it was very clear, and I'm not one usually, I am a little bit to say this, but a lot of decisions weren't going England's way, particularly in that first half. There was a lot of fouls brought up that maybe weren't. There was a lot of advantages given that maybe weren't as well. There was a lot of those kinds of things going on. But England kind of kept their cool and just kept going in that first half in arguably some of the better performing players that they've had in this tournament.
Yeah, I think I certainly wasn't keeping my cool on the settee watching those decisions. But I think, they clearly knew what they were up against. And I think if you're going into that hostile crowd situation anyway, you're probably expecting, okay, maybe the referee's not going to be giving it in our favour all the time. And I think there's been studies done that say, like, psychology of referees, they are more likely to favour a home crowd. And I think with the intensity of that Australian crowd, then maybe there was a bit of that going on, or they just were missing it or whatever. I completely agree. There were definitely some decisions which can be described as slightly dodgy in that first half. But yeah, they did absolutely really well. I think there were times when I was slightly nervous when Australia perhaps had a chance and got in behind. But I think that first half was it was very frantic, and it wasn't not calm. Like, they didn't look kind of all over the place or anything, but it was very fast paced, very end to end kind of football. And I think especially my anticipation of this match coming into it was that Australia would play a type of football that England would prefer playing against. And I think that did play out in the second half, in the sense that Australia were pressing much higher in the pitch, so that when England could get past that, they were getting more space in behind, and they were able to play the more like kind of expansive football that England like to play, and find those spaces, which is ended how it ended comfortably. But I think that first half, Australia did sit a bit deeper. And I think for England to kind of just continue with their own game plan, continue with that calmness in front of those fans with some of those decisions, just showed, I think it probably speaks to what Kimberly was talking about in terms of that player management that Serena's so good at. Just those players know exactly what they need to do and what to expect. And the experience, maybe it helped that some of that squad have been in a semi-final of World Cup before. I think that will certainly contribute to it. Australia, of course, not having been there, and of course having more pressure in some ways from their home crowd. So I think it's probably a combination of factors, but Sarina Wiegman has to be given her flowers.
No, for sure. I can see your comment, fan. Obviously, talking about Lauren James, I want to get back to her because, as you rightly said, obviously she's available for the final, so that's something we'll come back to a bit later on when we look at the final itself. But Kimberly, for yourself, that kind of first half, obviously, we spoke a little bit about the refs' decisions there. Anton's kind of agreeing that some of them obviously pretty brutal in that first half, but England kind of kept their cool and just kind of kept going. How did you see that first half from your point of view?
Yeah, I think most of the points that Laura and Barry said, are just the way I saw it as well. But I think when England had their chances to get in front of the press, they had some good opportunities, but it was just like the final pass wasn't really there. There were a couple of they tried to get Russo running the channels and overhit the pass to her, and it just didn't really work out. But as Laura said, I never had the feeling that they would get behind, even though Australia had some good opportunities of their own. I never really thought that England was in very much trouble. I think they started really, really well to the game, and I think even the fact that the ref had some questionable decisions regarding the fouls, I think England kept their cool and just went on with their business, where it would have been very, very easy to lose your head and maybe get into a stupid yellow or run into trouble, especially in the midfield. And I was a bit worried when Alex got that early yellow, because she played so well this tournament. She's really one we can't afford to lose before the final. So I think overall it was a decent first half. I think the opposition was better than England maybe have faced as well, because they know each other quite well, because most of the players, of course, play in the WSL. But yeah, I think getting the goal was the boost England really needed. And to the fashion, how Toone, how the ball went into the goal was just, it was a screamer. And she hit it so perfectly. And I think that was just the confidence boost they really, really needed.
No, for sure. We'll definitely move on to Toone's goal now, actually. Anton's clarifying himself, so I didn't actually see the comment above. You know, we were talking about the ref's decisions. Was referring to the game last year, meant in the Euros game last year against Spain when England got favoured. Swings and roundabouts, didn't it? But yeah, I think thinking back to it, I think you probably are right, as you mentioned. The psychological, it's going to happen. These refs are human. As we maybe saw for the United men's side on Monday night with a potential penalty towards the end of that one, but we don't need to talk about that. Barry, for yourself and Ella Toone, we'll start with obviously her goal that opened up the scoring and just how much I guess she probably needed that, because she's been criticised obviously by all of us as United fans throughout the back end of last season, going into this tournament. None of us really felt like she played particularly well. Just how much, I think John made the point earlier. Can't find it. Toone's the first ever player. England player to score in a quarterfinal, semi-final, and final in major tournaments. The fact that she always turns up in these, I guess, bigger games as well. So, yeah, what you made of her goal and just, I guess, how much she probably needed that for herself, really, to get herself back up and running with her own performances.
It was all right, wasn't it? I probably could have done that after a couple of beers. No, it was bloody unbelievable. What a rocket. Nobody was stopping that. That was an absolute blinder. Listen, we've always said about Ella Toone, regardless of the reason why she hasn't been performing at the level that we know Ella Toone can play at. And there could be a number of reasons for that, Connor, because she was playing so well up until the Euros. Then she played well in the Euros. And post-Euros, I think there's been a bit of a hangover. And I don't think we can really understand. I mean, it's a bit like us here on AFU, all four of us sat here now. If you can imagine, we're watching this now, we've got 88 people that I can see currently watching this live. Now, I don't know that I've ever seen us hit triple figures live. So if we hit a point where that does that, I might, go a little bit. But if you were to imagine that coming out of All for United, all of a sudden we went from that to having like 10 million subscribers, walking down the streets, people know your name. They want pictures with you probably because they'll be fascinated by your hair. They might want autographs from me because I can write and you can't. All of those sorts of things. Our life would just be completely changed. You're no longer just Ella Toone from around the corner who happens to play for Manchester United women who are watched by a couple of thousand people. All of a sudden, it's worldwide. And I don't think we can understand what that must be like to live with. I mean, I know that she jokingly said she got papped eating a Cornish pasty or whatever it was, but that shouldn't be happening to anyone, should it? That you're sitting there wondering if you're eating a Cornish pasty gracefully enough, just in case someone happens to have whipped their camera out and taken a photo. So I think we do need to have a moment of understanding for that. The women's game is evolving into such a respect that the people playing it aren't necessarily ready for a lot of the changes that have come in and for a lot of the criticism and scrutiny that's going to be involved in doing that sort of thing. So I felt like that was an important point to put out, but it doesn't change the fact that she'd been pony for quite a while and she needed to sort herself out. What a way to do it, by the way. It just goes to show what Ella Toone can do when she's given a little bit of time, a little bit of space, and a little bit of support. And she's absolutely gone out there and just shown the world what it is that Ella Toone can do, and exactly what Sporty said. I mean, she says always brings it when the chips are down. I don't know about always. But today she absolutely did. She's gone out there. She's given us the lead. She's given us that confidence going into the second half. And, she just does it, doesn't she? She did it in the World Cup final, like I say, and that was just absolute, not World Cup final, the European Cup final, sorry. She will do it in the World Cup final, is what I was trying to say there as well. But just unbelievable. Absolutely. I'm so pleased that she scored it because she needed that. And now all of a sudden it opens up the inevitable debate for later on as to who starts, whether it's Ella Toone or Lauren James. And that'll be a very interesting conversation that I'm looking forward to having with all three of you on in the show.
No, for sure. You are right in terms of obviously the pressure, I guess, on her more. It's not often I say that, obviously with the pressure that's been put on her, obviously post, and United have had a stressful season as well. When you look at the kind of media attention that was put on United, we're pushing for the title, getting to the FA Cup final for the first time. There was a lot of more added pressure from the United side as well as the international stage. But Laura, it's something we've obviously spoken about. We've spoken about Toone, whether she should be starting and so on. Obviously, then the James red card kind of forced her, I guess, back into that starting role. What did you make of her today? Obviously, that goal and how much, I guess, she needed that goal to almost get people not off her back, but just kind of saying, this is what I can do and why I'm starting and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Great goal, great performance. Overall, I think even when she came back in for Lauren James last game, she wasn't at her best. And I think that game was kind of like, I think people were saying, I think I was certainly saying, maybe let's try something else. And she's absolutely shown why Serena's kept her faith in her, kept that trust. And I think that's just as much Serena keeping that trust and going, no, I want you to start. You're my player that's going to go out there and start in that number 10 role. And to have that confidence from your manager, obviously she did get dropped from James, but it's so easily that Serena could have rotated or she could have not started her at the start of the tournament because she might not have been in great form this season. But she did, and she did that for a reason. And I think, Toone's had a great game, absolutely pivotal for England there. If she hadn't scored that goal, where would we have been? Would we have gone 1-0 down? Would we have lost our heads because the crowd would have got on top? It's such an important goal in that match, even if it doesn't necessarily look like it by the end of the score. I think her impact in that game and the ability and potential she has to make that impact in any game speaks volumes of her as a player, and I'm so happy for her as an individual and so happy that she's come into form at this point in the tournament. Like, what a time to do it, just before a World Cup final.
Certainly a statement to send out, isn't it? Scoring it, as Barry mentioned, talk about obviously the Euros final last year, scoring in that one, and obviously now in a huge semi-final as well against the hosts. She's done almost the reverse now. So, Kimberly, for yourself, have you got anything to add on Ella Toone and kind of her importance of the goal from a personal point of view, but also in the context of the game as well?
Yeah, I do agree with what Barry said. Like, I think after the Euros, so much changed for all the people who were in the squad. And I think even Leah Williamson said it at the time, like, they weren't prepared for the amount of attention they got. And maybe they, like the men's players, they live like in big compound houses, have all the security around them. They need to have a bit of a private life. And of course, the women, they don't have that right now. So I think that certainly played a factor in how Toone played this entire season. But I think she knows Serena trusts her, even though she got dropped for James. And I do think it'll be an interesting point. Should she start in the final or not? I think she should, because I think she's defensively a bit better than James. And I presume Spain will have a lot of the possession, as they always have. So I think she should start in the final as well and have James as a really, really good impact sub. But I think this goal for her is just a massive confidence boost. And I hope, as Laura said, she'll peak in the final. And this is just like the warming up. But we'll have to wait and see, of course. But I really do think this is a massive confidence boost. And I think for the entire team, because they've played better than they had in previous games. And to see Hempo score another goal, she worked really hard for it. To see Russo score another goal, I think it's good for the back line as well. They've played a great tournament, but it was the front line and the midfield that was a bit struggling to create chances. And even though they haven't created a lot of chances, I really think this is a massive confidence boost for the entire team.
No, it certainly will be. We'll kind of get Anton, I'm getting the feeling here that you're not England's biggest fan. Talking about it's England's first top-ranked team, isn't it? Obviously, England haven't really faced anyone difficult. Maybe not. But when you look at the other teams that are in it, you can't help who you play. And I would argue, and I've said this all tournament, when people said England had an easier route because Germany were knocked out and so on, these teams didn't just buy their way into the next rounds. Teams like Colombia and so on got there because they were better than the sides in their groups and the knockout stages. So you don't buy your way into the next rounds.
to a degree, he's got a point. To a degree, but like I say, I was looking through that as well. And in Haiti, you're playing against a player who had, unless I'm very much mistaken, she won the world's best young player, so the Young Player of the Year award. So, that's not a side that's necessarily not producing talent, is it? We had Denmark, which has Caroline Graham Hansen, I do believe, and she's not exactly.
You're thinking of the wrong bit.
Am I in the wrong
Hardy.
one?
You're thinking of Norway.
I'm trying harder to try and learn all these people who I've never seen before. So, that was a good one. China was probably the easiest one, and they were the ones that were absolutely smashing it at one point. Nigeria was a difficult game. I just think we're doing a bit of a disservice to other teams in the women's game at the moment. You'd be a fool to sit there and just say that these teams are easy. They're all fighting for the same thing. I would say that, yes, we haven't necessarily played against the greatest of sides, and probably the greatest that we're going to face is coming in the final. But we've done that almost with the one hand tied behind our back, with the result of, the players that we've had missing and all of that sort of thing. So, I get what you're saying, but you're not going to bring us down, mate, because we're in the final. So,
I say he has clarified, saying he's half English. He's just a bit wary, which, like I said, I can see the point. Rankings wise, and when you're looking at the teams prior to the tournament, maybe I think they're different.
You're so half Spanish. Is this the problem? You've got some sort of internal dilemma.
Potentially. I agree with Drew's comment. England faced good teams and Nigeria and Colombia both being higher ranked teams. They were under. I think that's the thing. You don't see England playing these, and European sides playing these kinds of sides. There you go. Confirmed it for you. There we are. I can't remember what I was going to move on to now. We'll talk obviously about the Australia guy and kind of anything, because it's worth mentioning, because it was one hell of a strike. And, I sit on here a lot and I criticise keepers and I criticise, could the keeper have done anything with this one and so on. I'm not going to do that with this goal, because I don't think any keeper in the world is reaching that one. Barry, for yourself, obviously Australia got the goal. They came out in the second half. They were better than they were in the first half, came out a little bit more. The Sam Kerr goal in particular, some would argue Millie Bright's dropping off a bit too much, obviously, to let her shoot. But I think I was saying this to somebody earlier. If I'm Bright, I'm going, yeah, shoot from there. You're not scoring. Take the shot from that kind of range. But we saw how that ended up. So, anything to add on the kind of Australia goal and what that meant at the time?
I think the first thing I'd say about it is that the minute I saw it hit the net, my first thought was, oh, Connor's not going to be happy because she's been beaten again over in the air. Oh, my goodness. Even though she stuck it right in the top corner and nobody's getting to that, he's not going to be happy at all. So I'm pleased that you saw the error of your ways. I'm going to go at Queen Mary. I think when I watched the highlights back again, I was determined to try and see where it was that the attack had come from. And we were right up on the edge of the 18-yard box. And I couldn't see who the player was who lost possession. But we were trying to attack and basically lost the ball within a tackle. And then of all the things to happen, it was just easy to cut through. And this is where the worry about the defence has come in. They have generally done really, really well. But that's when we've got players behind the ball. When we don't have players behind the ball, we leave ourselves open to these sort of possibilities. And that's exactly what we did. This is where we'll need to be wary against the likes of Spain, because if we allow Spain to counter-attack and cut through without us having the people behind the ball, they are going to create chances, and then we're going to rely a lot on Mary Earps to try and keep us in the competition. But Mary Earps wasn't saving that. There was nothing she could do about it. I think your tweet as well, which again I was pleased to read, said she wasn't expecting the shot. You're not really. She just loves doing it. This is Sam Kerr. We are talking about an absolute legendary, future Hall of Famer, they would say in America, wouldn't they? And 100% she should be. She is a world-class striker. And this is what the World Cup's all about. People don't sit there and talk about Pele's goal or Maradona's goal and just go, oh, well, the goalkeeper should have done better. They talk about these players because they're just that bloody good. And Sam Kerr's just that good. Unfortunately for her, she's very good and out. And that's a shame, isn't it?
That's nicely put, to be fair. And I think Chris summed it up there as well, saying, great goal, Sam Kerr, but I'm glad you're not smiling that. To be fair, I'm kind of semi-glad she got that moment, because obviously of missing the early part of the tournament. She's obviously looked forward for it for a while, home tour. So I'm kind of glad she got that moment, scoring in front of a packed crowd. But obviously, glad of the outcome as well. But Laura, for yourself, anything to add on the Sam Kerr goal? You know, as we kind of said there, you know, not a lot really. Mary Oates is going to do, but maybe a little bit could Bright have gone to her? Like I said, I'm under the kind of thought process that Bright's probably saying, well, yeah, shoot, because she's not going to score, but we saw what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I think absolutely incredible goal. I don't think there's much more you can say about it. The shot was incredible. Should be played on highlights reels for years to come. Compilations. That goal should be in there. It'd be like the YouTube thumbnail somewhere on something. It should be anyway. But yeah, my initial thought was, blame the Chelsea defender. Millie Bright should have done better. But I think, the thing is, if she steps there and she steps wrong, then Sam Kerr's round her and she's scoring anyway. So I think absolutely right. You have to give her a bit of space, or there wasn't anyone covering Millie Bright for her to make that step at that point. You needed someone coming in behind, perhaps, to cover or I don't know, going. Yeah, I don't think there's many options that you can really do to mitigate that goal. You can, with all the will in the world, that shot was destined for that net once it left her foot, and I don't think there was really much anyone could have done to stop that. I think the issue was in the build-up, letting Sam Kerr get into that position and facing a defender one-on-one with the opportunity to shoot. So if we're looking for errors, it comes higher up the pitch, and that's where we should have stopped that goal. Once she was there, if she has the potential to do that, there's just no stopping her.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Kimberly, for yourself, anything to add on the Kerr goal? I mean, there's a comment a bit further up.
No, I don't think so. I think I would have done this. I think Millie Bright did reasonably well, just backing off a bit and trying to push her a bit to the byline. Just even the slightest, would have been great. But at first, when she was about to hit, I thought, she should have passed to Ford, because she was one-on-one with Carter, and I think that would have been, I think Ford's battle to win. So at first I thought, what she's doing, and then she just hit it. I don't think you can hit a strike any better than that one. And I don't know if you guys saw the picture that was taken from roughly from Earps' goal, where she's like flying and the ball is just it's just way above her. It's an absolute screamer. I think, as Laura said, this should be in a highlight reel for years to come. And I do think, even though she plays for Chelsea, I do think it's a moment I like Kerr to have this tournament, because like getting injured in your home tournament when you're the big star just one day beforehand, I can't imagine how she felt, especially after Australia lost to Nigeria in the second game and all the pressure was on that third game, and was she able to play or not? And I think the thing she's done for Australian football, I think she deserved a moment like this. And I'm happy that in the end it was just the one goal and she missed like the two sitters afterwards. But I think this moment was good for her. It was good for Australian football, good for the fans in the stadium. But I'm really happy that in the end it didn't cost England that place in the final, because the momentum did shift a bit after that goal, where I thought England looked really good, and straight after the goal, I think the momentum shift, and it was for Hempo's perseverance, I think, to get that second goal that really settled everybody down again. But it could have easily gone wrong after that one, I think.
No, for sure. It was definitely my initial thoughts. I had two Chelsea fans message right as soon as she scored, who were English, by the way, and they're supporting the going, there's your Kerr goal against Earps. I was like, yeah, all right, whatever. Because as United fans, we are used to seeing that a little bit too often. She's not going to score next year against Earps, so it's fine. That's 100% getting clipped by Chelsea fans who are going to come back at me next season if she does. But there we are. Welcome, obviously, Chelsea fan, I assume, with the Champions League Thomas Tuchel holding it up in your picture. Obviously, I'm talking about the final, really confident, especially what happened last year. We'll come back to, I see your question there about predictions. We'll come to that in just a second. We'll finish off talking about the semi-final, and then we'll look ahead to the final.
Is she related to Chloe?
Potentially, probably not, but we can think. And Kerr was dead. There was people criticising I saw criticising after the goal, saying, "What I think, Kimberly, you just said it. Why didn't Kerr pass? Because fault was on." And to be fair, if that doesn't go in, you are looking at Kerr going, "Why are you not passing that?" But from an Australian point of view, it went in. It was fine. Like I said, I'm glad she got that moment, but the only one.
Score that from 20 odd yards out, but she couldn't score the ones from about 7. It was hilarious to me.
The one from the corner, especially, that kind of bounced on the 6-yard line. She put it far. I don't know how. That was harder to hit wide than hit on the target, I think, on that one. But Kimberly, you mentioned it just a second ago. So Barry, talk us through that kind of the Hemp goal that kind of put us ahead. Because again, another scruffy one that we kind of saw in the last game as well. Again, by Hemp, funny enough. That kind of scruffy one in front of goal. It was a long ball from Bright. Obviously, defenders didn't really deal with it. I think if that's the other way around, I'm looking at the England defenders going, why haven't you cleared that? But yeah, Hemp's kind of perseverance and just kept going. It's what you want your attackers to do, just chase every ball down, and obviously got a reward for it.
Yeah, I mean, this was just after I'd been Googling the stats for Daily and everything in preparation for this evening. And listen, it was a brilliant ball at the end of the day. Sometimes for all of the ticky-tacky you can do and all of the lovely, at the end of the day in England, we are very used to a Route 1 football. We don't mind one of those. And sometimes that catches the best teams out because you have all that lovely intricate football where you're passing the ball through and you're trying to find the different lanes. Sometimes just going, oh, she's up there, wallop, have that, can work. And it bamboozles people. And that's exactly what happened. The defender was struggling. She didn't want to bring her down and give away a penalty, even though Stanway probably would have missed it this season because she doesn't seem to. She's a bit allergic to scoring penalties at the minute. But I felt that Hemp did a really good job there of keeping the pressure on, not fouling as well. And I mean, it's a lucky finish as well at the same time because when you look at the replay, it was really close to the goalkeeper. So maybe the goalkeeper could have done better if you were trying to look at it critically. But personally, I'm glad she didn't. At the end of the day, the best bit is watching it as it sort of just curls away from her. You can see her getting ready to celebrate. Then she's like, oh, hang on a minute, that's curling. Is that going to hit the post? And then it goes in and it's like, yes, there you go. And I was delighted. It was absolutely brilliant. Superb work. And like I say, it doesn't always have to be, beautiful football. Sometimes just that ability to do that. And that's why it's so important you change it. When you look at United and the way that we've played at times, sometimes this recycling the ball all the time, oh, there's nowhere to go, let's bring it back. When you do that, it becomes predictable. This is what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago when Mia was on the show. We need to be less predictable. Got to change it about a bit, not just do the same thing all the time. We just keep on doing the same thing, you get caught out. We didn't. That was a very, very different thing to do. So, yeah, absolutely unbelievable. Brilliant goal. And it just calmed the nerves again, I think, because it was roughly 10 minutes after the goal from Kerr. So, yeah, it just sort of gave us the ascendancy again, took away the worries. And that's pretty awesome. Celebrating a City's player goal. No, I celebrated an England player's goal because that's how international football works. But I love your banter. It's good stuff.
Yes, I find it difficult sometimes to get over that barrier. I've got to be honest. When it comes
to
players.
The fact that I always pick her in my teams, when we have the City conversation, I always say Hemp's the one I would bring over. So I've got no problems with that. If Greenwood had scored, it might have been a different story.
Yeah, when we come to the third goal, I won't be as nice about the finish, but we could put that to one side potentially, obviously, for this one. Laura, anything to add on the Hemp goal? Because I think I've just rewatched it as well. Obviously, the Russo chance was just before that as well, where she headed it and it just scraped the post. I thought that was going in as well. But how kind of England responded, and as Barry said, changing it up a little bit. We know Bright's got an excellent pass on her. Obviously didn't reach its intended target straight to her. But as Barry said, you need that almost causing a bit of confusion in the back line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Lauren Hemp really deserved that goal. And I think on what Barry said about just Lauren Hemp's just such a likable player. Like, I think it's really hard from any rival team perspective. Like, I really didn't want to see Sam Kerr score today, and I was quite happy to see her lose. But Lauren Hemp just feels like a really likable player. Like, anyone that's willing to talk about Lego in their press conferences, I'm a fan of. But yeah, I thought she played really well today. I think she's kind of grown into this tournament for me a bit. I don't think she necessarily had the best games of her life in maybe the group stages, but she's really grown into this tournament. And And I think when we did that preview show, everyone was saying Mary Earps is the most valuable player. I think I said Lauren Hemp, so I feel vindicated now. But she did really well, and she definitely deserved that goal. And I think that goal was really a symptom of the kind of the pressure that she'd been putting on that back line all game, really harrying them, pressing really well throughout the match, and she just puts a shift in every time. And that goal was the outcome of that, because she was absolutely there on the Australian back line, ready for them to make a mistake. And I think Australia's last game against France, Alana Kennedy, obviously she didn't play today, but she made a mistake and France weren't there to take it. But you let that through the back line, don't clear it properly, don't deal with it. Lauren Hemp was there and was absolutely ready to take advantage of it. Yeah, and I thought it was really unlucky for Russo to miss that first chance, but the fact that England were you could easily have an equaliser against Kerr in that stadium and go, that's where the table turns, but they didn't. They kept their heads again like they did in the first half, came back and did really, really well in that match. And I think, that was just testament to Lauren Hemp's work rate throughout that match that she got that goal.
Yeah, Kim, I've just said this comment here. I think when you're talking about the whole England squad have got iconic quotes. Toone in particular has got quite a few, but I think there's so many reels and TikToks, I'm sure, that you can find the Lionesses. You can go through the whole squad. They've all got some quotes in there as well that I'm sure you can find, but certainly that one is a good one as well. But Kim, anything to add on Lauren Hemp? Obviously, you mentioned about her perseverance as well, like chasing that ball down. Anything to add on her performance, and obviously the goal that she got to put England back ahead as well?
I think, as Laura said, she was my player of the match as well. I just think her work rate and the system England plays now with two up top just really, that's made for her. Her speed, the way she runs the channels, like every ball that gets past the last defender, it's hers to win because she's so rapid. She just flies by people. It's not even a race. And I think the way she's worked this tournament, she's done so much defensively as well, like really putting pressure on the back line when they try to build a play. And I think it was just a deserved goal. And as Barry said before, it's just really strange that maybe the best forward England has to play a left wing back role, because she can also do that quite well, and there's not really a better option. But I think in this system, with Lucy and Rach on both sides getting the chances to get into the box, that just really opens up space for Hemp and Russo to run the channels, and I think both of them excel in that way. And I think it's a masterstroke by Serena to get the two up top. And as much as I love Chloe Kelly as a player as well, and the shots she's got in her leg and the crosses she can put into the box, I really think that this style of play fits Russo better as a forward, where her work rate as well. I think she and Hempo just thrive off each other, and it's just, I think it's a masterstroke, I think.
It certainly is, and it wasn't a decision that was very popular as well. And people were saying, why are you putting Hemp down the middle? She's better off the left and so on. But again, it goes back to the whole thing about Serena. How she pulls out these these systems and players that we say are out of position, but clearly as I said, put on my tweet earlier, keeps getting this England side winning, keeps getting over the line. Obviously, that's a mentality thing as well as player ability as well. This has been commented a couple of times by other people as well, saying, talking about a bank holiday if we win. You might want to get on to Rishi about that, but
I can categorically tell you now why. You've got more chance of Christmas happening in the middle of June.
Yeah, I can't see that many either, I've got to be honest. And I appreciate this comment, and I get the comparison. Obviously, United fans, we're really bitter towards Di Maria because obviously how he left United, so I don't like the comparison from that point of view. But certainly, when you're talking about her as a play, like if we focus on pure footballing ability, I do get that comparison as well, and can fully see that one. Anton's mentioned a name that United fans will be keeping eagle eyes on. I saw it and I was like, yeah, I'm bringing that one up when it comes up. And she's a Barca fan, and Barcelona are selling JC to United. Well, yes. So keep an eye on, obviously, United, but I'd be keeping an eye on Barcelona as well, because they've got some cash to spend. I'm not starting a rumor of Hemp to Barcelona, by the way, so nobody clip that up and tweet me later on saying that I've said that. I didn't. I've just said Barca have got cash to spend this summer. Speaking of cash, Barry, Alessia Russo. Moving on to, I thought that was quite a good one in my head.
I love that.
Didn't come out the way I wanted to, but either way. Yes, obviously, after the Hemp goal, obviously, there was quite a few chances for Australia. A couple of as we expected. Australia are always going to come back at England. Just the importance of the Russo goal towards the end. Obviously, again, as Kimberly mentioned, the link up between Hemp and Russo, it seems to suit them both. Obviously, better in this system. But it's this thing where, obviously, I'm going to put the bitterness to one side for a second, but it is something we've seen with Russo in a United shirt, that kind of running off the right side, the shot across goal. We saw it quite a few times, for United and for England. She likes that low driven into the far corner, and it was a good finish in the end, which ultimately killed the game off because at that point there was no way back for Australia. But just Russo's performance overall and that kind of link up with Hemp that leads to those types of goals.
It was a brilliant finish. She did everything she needed to do. We need to, again, doff our cap to Lauren Hemp because that pass was just not just exquisite. That was Gordon Ramsay 5-star restaurant stuff that, just absolutely, again, bamboozled the defence, perfectly weighted, brilliant for Alessia Russo to run onto. And, I think a lot of credit going to Wiegman, as we said, but I said this a lot about Mark Skinner in the past. You live and die by your decisions as a manager. You have to make those decisions. And once you've made them, you just hope the players go out there and do what you need them to do. I still think Lauren Hemp is a better player from the left-hand side coming in. And they've scored a goal each. So it's very easy to now sit there and go, you see, Wiegman's got it right. When it was just one moment out of 90. It wasn't necessarily comfortable. But having said that, you can't put a dampener on this. I did consider coming on and trying to be grumpy Barry, but you can't do that. We've just made the World Cup final. And it's for that reason that, you talk about bitterness. As far as I'm concerned, Alessia Russo is an English player. She plays for England. And I will support her every single minute of every single match. I want her to score goals. It would be delightful. In fact, what I would love is for Alessia Russo to score all of her future goals for England. And just dry up when she gets to Arsenal. That's what I hope for in an ideal world. So that's literally how my mind thinks. But for the minute she pulls on that England shirt, there's no bitterness for me there. I just want her to do well. My bitterness purely comes from the fact that I just can't believe the left wing back scored more goals than both of them and still doesn't play out front. And my head will never get that. I can't imagine Rashford being asked to play where Luke Shaw plays. I can't imagine it. Doesn't tend to happen. I said before, I can't imagine Sam Kerr going to left back and having to do that. So I do find that difficult, but you can't fault that finish. Everything about it. Initially, I didn't even shout because I genuinely thought she was offside. It felt very tight. And I waited till the replay was going on. I refused to believe it. And it was just perfect. She held the line perfectly, everything she needed to do. That is Alessia Russo when she's at her best. And I've sat on this channel and I've told you that I think she's better than Beth England. And I stand by that statement. I will continue to stand by that statement. Alessia Russo should be chosen for England over Beth England. I just also happen to believe that Rachel Daly deserves a chance up front. It's unfortunate. But yeah, brilliant stuff from Alessia Russo. And yeah, she should be rightly praised. That's Alessia Russo at her best.
I mean, Laura, would you tend to agree with that? That obviously talking about this system and how it works for both of them, but obviously the goal itself, talking about Russo, like that is a typical almost Russo goal. Running off the shoulder of the defender, and that kind of she's got shot power on her. Me and Barry have been stood behind the goal at Kingsmeadow where she's been firing those off in the pre-match warmth, and they'd have been taken out by a few of them. So she's definitely got power on the shot. But yeah, is that Russo, do you think, at her best in that kind of area, linking up with Hemp in the way that those two have done?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very, very, very similar to that goal she scored against Colombia. And it's clearly her strength in that position. I've ordered my Alessia Russo shirt now. So for England, to be fair. But I think, she's had a great game. And I think the thing with this system is, like, you can question it in saying, okay, maybe she's not utilising players to their strengths. but maybe she's using a formation that she thinks is most likely to win against those opposition, and then she fits players into it. I don't know what her strategy is, and I have doubts about it myself in the way that I think Hemp can be utilised way better, and there are question marks over players' kind of perfect suitability, or would they be better in other positions. But the fact she's got us this far, and the fact that this formation has got us this far with the players in the positions that they are, yeah, maybe it is a case of, I think it says in the comments somewhere, maybe it is a case of there's not the video footage of Lauren Hemp around playing in a front two to kind of have the analysing from the oppositions to be there, or is it just, I just think she plays a system that will beat the opposition and then she fits her players into it, and whether that's your approach to football or not, it seems to work in tournament football. And you know what, I'm fine with it. I think if you're Rachel Daly, you go in, okay, yeah, I could get a few more goals if she played me in my natural position, but would I prefer that or to win a World Cup? I think I'd take the World Cup. I don't know, like, yeah, she's not going to be able to stat pad, but maybe play her up front against Luxembourg and she'll thank you for it, and you'll make up for it. But yeah, I think Russo that's, in to answer your question, definitely one of her strengths, and I think that's shown from it being very similar to the goal she scored against Colombia. And overall, whatever's happening is working, and I'm not going to complain at this point.
No, Kimberly, before I come to yourself, obviously, Baron, I know you wanted to come back on this comment I brought on screen, talking about, potentially the reason why we're playing this is, you mentioned it in the comment before, maybe it is because of a pressing game, and, that Russo and Hemp are probably better in the press on this one.
I mean, Anton's been around for a long time around our channel, and I've always seen him as an entirely sensible human being. But we're talking about the left wing back here. Now, I can tell you from bitter personal experience that the minute you get put in the wing back role rather than the full back role, your running increases ridiculously because you are now the width for that team. So she is literally running up and down there like a dog chasing a tennis ball. It's like, I'll go and get the ball, I'll come back. I'll go and get the ball, She is literally up and down, up and down. So that's the first thing. There's nothing to do with fitness, and I wouldn't question Rachel Daly's fitness. But even if we were to go along with that, she only needs to do it for an hour, because then you bring on Alessia Russo, and what a substitute she could be. So I don't totally agree with that comment, but that's fine because we're allowed different opinions.
No, for sure. I can see both. I can see why. We saw it in the Euros last year. There was a lot of people saying, why is Ellen White starting over Russo? That argument, I remember us having it on this channel. And the argument was because White can run the defences down for an hour, and then Russo and Toone can come on, and they're the better. So it might be that. We don't know. Obviously, we don't know. We're not as clever as Serena. What she's doing is working. So we can't argue too much with it. But I think there's a case for both sides, to be honest. Kimberly, for yourself, and the last kind of thing on Russo and Hemp and kind of her goal and how well she took that one and how she's kind of grown into this tournament, I guess, because there's a lot of criticism of her, at the start of this tournament as well.
Yeah, I think most things have been said by Laura and Barry, to be fair, but I think her strength is coming off the shoulder of a defender and then like shielding the ball and just hit it ferociously in the bottom corner. That is just her thing, and she's really, really good at that. And she's just a pure striker, nothing fancy on the ball, nothing with much finesse. It's just really good placement in the bottom corner. Keeper has no chance. And I think if you use her in that way, and also in this system, her work rate suits this system better. And there's a lot of things to say, of course, if Lauren Hemp is better on the left side wing than into up front, but I think for now it's working. And against Spain, I think, yeah, the back line of Spain, of course, they've got Ona Bache, who's a phenomenal right back, of course. Will be interesting to see, by the way, if she plays right back or left back, depending on what Jorge Vilda will do. But I think Paredes and also Godina aren't the most rapid players. So I think with Lauren Hemp playing more between those two can really cause problems. And I think with Russo's strength, it might suit a game against Spain better. But of course, we need the ball first. And yeah, I think that's going to be the big task against Spain, and we saw it last year in the Euros as well. It's just playing against Spain is just really difficult because you don't get that many opportunities. So England has to be really clinical. But I think if they can, just like Laura said about Australia today, when England could break the Australian press, they could really use Hemp speed. I think that could be something against Spain as well that they can utilize. And but yeah, I think to be fair to your question, I think the goal was just a typical Russo goal. And in contrast to Barry, I hope to see a lot more of them this season, but not only in an England shirt.
I guess everyone's anticipating or looking forward to that second game of the season, United versus Arsenal, because that is going to be quite something at LSV. Let's see which Alessia Russo rocks up and also what reception she'll get as well.
Can't even start, Connor. Different question altogether, but she might not.
It's something me and Laura were talking about last night, actually, in terms of how Arsenal are going to set up next season, because so many attackers, especially when players are back fit. Jonas got one hell of a job on his hand. Kimberly, you just brought up the nice little segue into talking a little bit about the final. So you spoke a little bit about team selection, Ev. So, Barry, I come to yourself. The question that kind of a lot of people have been talking about pretty much all show. Obviously, we know Lauren James is going to be back available for this game. What would you be doing if you're Serena looking at this one? And we know the quality of Lauren James. We know the quality of Ella Toone. They've both got qualities and over each other, and they've both got things that they need to work on individually as well. What would you be doing ahead of this final? It's a different kind of opposition with Spain. As Kimberly said there, Spain are probably going to be they will be the best side that we faced. How would you be looking to set up in this one in particular? Would you change anything else, or is this the big one? Or would you keep it the same? What would you be looking to do?
There's like 1,001 different things that you could say about this. Serena Wiegmann isn't famed for making lots of changes. So, you'd imagine it's going to be the same. Had Toone not managed to go off and score that absolute rocket, I probably would have erred towards starting Lauren James. I think the fact that Toone pulled it together just in time, coupled with the fact that, Lauren James also has to understand that the way that which she chose to behave did put her teammates under sort of undue pressure. I think kind of needs to be taken into it as well. So, yeah, I think personally I'd start Toone, and if she's not performing, bring James on, as opposed to the other way around and starting James and bringing Toone on, would be my personal opinion. But as we seem to have worked out, Serena Wiegmann watches the channel but doesn't listen to me, unlike Mark Skinner. So, hard to tell really what she will do. I think you've got to just stick with what you've done, though, surely, haven't you? I mean, it's defied all logic going up to this point, so why change it? Whatever she does is probably going to be right. Like she'll fluke it somehow, or it will just come out perfectly. One of the two. Because we talk about luck. Let's be honest, we could have gone out to Nigeria on penalties. Stanway missed hers. If Nigeria had scored theirs, would have been out, and we wouldn't be having this conversation and talking about how that happened. So you need a bit of luck, you need a bit of genius, and thankfully we've got all of that. So I think really that's just a long-winded way of saying I couldn't really care less what she chooses to do. Now we just got to go and win the bloody thing, and that's her job.
I mean, Laura, for yourself, what would you be looking? Obviously, James and Toone is the big one. Would you look to change anything else? Obviously, we're pretty. I think all of us on here are pretty going to agree that it's likely going to be the same. But what would you be looking to do ahead of this one? Because as we said there, different kind of opposition to maybe what England have faced so far.
Yeah, I think I'd start the same. I think I'd pick Toone over James for the reasons that Barry has spoken about. And also, I said at the start of this tournament, I think Lauren James probably proved me wrong when she did start. But I just love the idea of her as a super sub. Like, what an option to have sat on your bench to come on and change the game. And you know what a position we're in, that Spain are going to be doing the same thing that we are and going, oh, will Serena start James or will she start Toone? And that isn't confirmed. It's not known which one she will start, and they've got to prepare for both eventualities. And they're very different prospects, and they both have their strengths. So I think to put Spain in that position, to have that position yourself where you choose in between, do we start the number 10 that scored in the semi-final, or do we start the number 10 that could have had a hat-trick in the group stages. Like, what a decision to have to make. And I think, personally, I'd start Toone, and then if it doesn't work, make the sub. My fear is that Serena hasn't been one to make subs early on. So if it doesn't work out with Toone, she's a great manager. So, but the main criticism I probably have of her is that the subs haven't been too forthcoming. But I think start Toone and settle into the match. Toone did a good job in the Euros last year, played in that match, so she's got that experience. She's played in a final, a major final before, and I think Lauren James obviously did put the team in some jeopardy, arguably, with her actions. So I think you start her on the bench. You start Toone. She's earned a place, and there's no doubt over that now after today's game. And James is an incredible option to have on the bench, and you absolutely do bring her on at some point. My fear maybe is the defensive capabilities of Daly against the attacking power that Spain have on that side. I know she struggled in the Euros match, so I don't know what change you make there. I think we've had this debate over and over again of we don't have this fully suited defence. I think it starts exactly how we have started, and I would probably do the same. But that would be my only worry with this formation and this team going into that game.
I'll say, obviously, you mentioned the change. Didn't Serena make the change in that particular game that you're talking about and took Daly off?
Yeah.
And didn't Greenwood
came on, I think, did a lot better, especially in extra time.
So maybe it's maybe we'll see a change there, if any. Vilda's hated by everybody. Let's be real on that one. I don't think anyone wants. This is such a weird final because for people who aren't or don't support England, nobody wants England to win, and for Vilda, nobody wants Spain to win because of him. So it's such a weird like final for the neutrals because nobody wants either side to win. It's going to be a strange one. So Kimberly, for yourself in this James Toone debate, who would you be? Would you be making any other changes, and who would you start out of those two?
Yeah, I think I would start Toone, as I said before, just because I don't see at this point if England will have a lot of possession, and I think Toone is a bit better in defending than Lauren James is. However, it might also be the case that James would suit this a bit slower and static defense of Spain better. So yeah, it's a difficult choice, and it's one Serena will definitely have planned for, and I've got no doubt she has a game plan already set in place and she knows what to do. But I think I would start Toone. The only worry I have is that because Spain is so good moving the ball in the midfield, in those tight spaces, that our midfield is going to run after the ball and just exhaust themselves, which might cost them when they have the ball to put it forward neatly and precisely, because I think just like last year in the Euros, England won't get many chances and they have to be so careful not to waste any opportunities when they've got the ball. I think I would start Toone and have James as an impact sub, and you could even argue that maybe a player who works really well in tight spaces like a Jordan Nobbs would be a good option as well to have as a sub for this game. But I don't really see Serena bringing her on, to be fair. But it will be interesting to see as well how England will line up with Daly as a left wing back. I think she'll get up against Onabache as well, I think, on that side then. And I think that's going to be a really tough battle for her, especially as she hasn't played any defense for the entire year, even not in the pre-tournament games like at the Arnold Clark Cup or anything else. She didn't play anywhere near her current position. So that might be a struggle, but she's one of my favorite players, and I've no doubt in my mind that she'll work her work rate to interrupt the Spanish play will be there. And I think she's learned from her mistake in the final last year, not to get too hungry to intercept the ball, but just take a better angle, because that was actually the only thing she really did wrong when Spain scored in the Euro final last year. She just made a tackle with a really bad angle, and therefore she was easily passed. But I think she's learned from that, and yeah, we'll have to see how it works out. I would love for England to have a game like Japan had against Spain, that you've got like 10% of the possession, and you've got like for 27 seconds, you've got the ball in the opponent's final third, and you score 3 goals. That would just be great, I think. But not sure if that's going to happen. But I think Hempo's speed could play a vital role in that, as when Japan played straight through the middle against Spain, that was when they were at their best. And I think that's something that, with the passing ability of Kira and Georgia in midfield, could be an option for England.
Certainly a lot of points raised there. I'm going to come back to you all with your kind of score predictions in a second once we've kind of done player of the match as well. Anton's obviously mentioned a couple of the players that are missing. It's more obvious that, I mean, them missing from any team, you're going to notice, because they are that good. Obviously talking about the trophy, I really like the trophy. I've got to be honest. I think it looks quite cool. Maybe it's just me, and
I agree with you, Connor. And actually, sometimes I think there's history behind the Jules Rimet Trophy and all of that sort of thing. And I think the women's game should be looking for its own history and its own thing. Not everything needs to be the same as the men in that respect. So yeah, the title is what matters really. And so, I'd stick with like it is. I quite like it as well.
Since it's quite fancy, isn't it? Like with the swirl, and I don't know, I like it. I think it looks quite cool. Right, we'll come to player of the match then. So I'll go around the panel. So if you haven't voted on the poll already, to be fair, as we thought, Hemp is looking like she's going to win it because she's country miles ahead of the next person. But I'll come to each of you. Don't let us sway your vote. Vote who you want to. I'll end the poll in a couple of minutes. But Barry, for yourself, who would you vote for and why?
Lauren Hemp. Do I need to tell you why? Unbelievable. She went in there. She scored a goal. She set up the third one. At the moment when we needed someone to come up and help us because we just had the goal conceded, she kicked up again. She was one of those who helped drag us out of it. She scored the goal, like I say, that put us in the lead again. And then just as Australia was starting to press, we had all those problems. Sam Kerr luckily missing a few, and the great save from Mary Earps. And then, like I say, it was disgustingly brilliant, that pass for Russo. But there's no other choice. And I'm glad to see that the majority of people here are sensible and have said that. And I have no doubt in my mind that even the two Arsenal fans are going to agree.
Well, Laura, we'll start with yourself. Have you gone for Hemp as well, or have you gone for somebody else?
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be Hemp. I do think I think she's up in the poll for probably the first time this tournament. But Lucy Bronze deserves a bit of a shout out. Not like, I don't think she's had an amazing tournament. I don't think she's come in for a critics herself, but I thought she had a really good game. She stopped that pairing of Catley and Ford, which has been so dangerous for Australia this game, kind of operating on her own almost in that right, because she plays that wing back role. And just as a player, she's in a World Cup final. I think she's won everything bar a World Cup. So just like as a player with a legacy in the women's game and someone who's really pushed the women's game forward, she deserves a bit of a shout out, I think. And I thought she played really well today. But yeah, for player of the match for today's game, absolutely Hemp.
I can see, Charlie, where you're going with that question. But is football? You need 3 dots after that, because I know how that sentence finishes. We'll answer that on Sunday when we come back after the final, and you'll have your answer to that one. But Kimberly,
is football what, coming home? Is that the question?
Well, that's what I assumed it was. It might be something different, but that's what I assumed that question meant.
Clarification required.
I didn't want to say it just in case you said they didn't want to jinx it, but yeah, that's how I understood that question. Kimberly, for yourself, are you going to make it a full house of Lauren Hemp for player of the match on this one?
Yeah, I'm going to say Lauren Hemp as well. I said it before early in this show, but I think she really stepped up this tournament. Like, she's still one of the youngest players in the squad actually, and she's just a vital part of the team. And her work rate, the way she works to press, the way she conducts herself, and that pass to Russo, that was just delightful. And I don't think many people would have played that pass. I think the option to Toone was the easier one, but this one was the one that set up the goal. And I think thoroughly deserved. I was glad to see that she got player of the match from the FIFA as well, because there have been some dodgy and questionable selections there as well. But I think fully deserved, and she deserves this full house as well. So.
For sure, she's won it on the poll as well with 70% of 68% of the vote. It was on 70 when I went to click in, so somebody else got a vote late on.
What the others then?
So Toone on 18, Bronze on 6, Greenwood on 5. So quite a big margin, but as we kind of expected on that one. And I'd have gone for Hemp as well. And I agree with you, Kimmy, on some of these player of the matches that have been given out. I'm convinced that FIFA only look at who scored the last goal and just go, that's who we're going to give it to. So I really thought they were going to give it to Russo just based off that, the fact she got the last goal. But thank God they saw their senses on this one. Right, I'll come to you for your kind of score predictions then for the final. Who's going to sit their neck out and put a score on the final? Obviously, before you do, Anton's talking about Spain's weaknesses this tournament. So their backline, their strength, they're more than aggressive and physical than they normally are, and quite dangerous. Obviously, with the final third. Obviously, us United fans know obviously Honor particularly well. That's going to be an interesting encounter, whichever side she plays on the right or the left. Obviously, mentioned the goalkeeper. How many caps does the Spain keeper have? And Anton said that's only 3. First game was against Switzerland, so maybe there's something there. Well, this is an open question. I'll let anyone go first. Let's see who wants to put their neck out on the line first with a score line on this one.
Do you know, I've struggled with this. I knew you were going to ask this question. And part of me that just wants to go, we're going to get knocked out because it's worked so well throughout the whole tournament so far. And if all of a sudden change my mind, I am going to change my mind. Ideally, I would like to see Rachel Daly score the winning goal, just because I feel like she deserves it. But if I put my head on, I'm going to go 3-0 England.
Wow, that's a bigger scoreline than I thought. Most people go conservative and go kind of. I mean, to be fair, I got this one bang on. I did say 3-1 for this one, and obviously that's how it finished. I mean, it's like the only prediction I've got right all tournament, but I'm taking it. Broken clock is right twice a day and all that stuff. Laura Kimberley, what are you saying scoreline wise?
I've got every prediction wrong, so I'm tempted to just go for a Spain win, so that hopefully that's wrong as well. But I think England have more experience in major finals, tournament finals in recent times. Serena Wiegman's been here before, although not won it. But I think Spain are a very different proposition to the USA team that the Netherlands came up against in 2019. I don't want to predict Jorge Vilda winning anything, so I think everyone's guessing 2-1, but I might just go with the crowd and go 2-1 to England. I think I don't want to say the 3 words, but I think England have enough in them, have enough experience in these kind of situations, and to go through a semi-final against Australia, against a home crowd, I reckon they've got enough about them to win a final. It is completely different though, isn't it? All things out the window in a final.
You say you don't want to say the words, but we don't need to say those words because we're in a situation that we've not been in before. It's not is football coming home, it's is football staying home.
That is very true.
Yeah,
Does it count properly for Euros though? I feel like World Cup's a real deal for coming home.
I mean, that's one way to put on people's conference. Yeah, absolutely.
The Arnold Clark Cup I thought Barry was talking about in terms of, bringing it home and all that kind of stuff.
Is this the international quadruple with 2 Arnold Clark Cups and Euros?
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows how important that trophy is. Kim, with you
as well. Then it's so then you've got already the quadruple with 2 Arnold Clark Cups, Euros, and a finalissima. So
and that as well. Yeah, forgot about that one. It's just,
I think it's a bit boring, but I think it's going to be really close. But I hope not, but I do think it's going to be close. And I'm going to say 2-1 England. because I do see Spain score one way or another. They've got so many, like Parayuelo or Bonmati. They're just so creative, and they only need like a 1% chance to get a shot on goal. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But is Parayuelo going to go up against Bronze? Is that because they're of course teammates? So she might have a little advantage there to marking her out of the game as well. Because if you look at the Champions League final, Parayuelo really, really struggled in a big game. So it might as well be a bit of a lot of pressure on the shoulders of a 19-year-old to predict that she's going to be the one Spain has to lean on in a final. But it might be the case. But yeah, I'm going to say 2-1 England, and just and preferably also in regular time, as I've got to go to a birthday party. So otherwise I might not be able to watch the complete game. So it would be very much appreciated if it was in regular time.
Yeah, none of this added on 12 minutes and all that kind of jazz at half time.
No, probably not. Just like today, 1 and 6 minutes. That's more than enough.
Yeah, and it's something you've just put in our chat actually. That Barca have 11 players, in this final. And media centre manager Zenia, Walsh versus Bomber, two of the best players on the planet in Walsh and Bonmati coming up against each other. Bronze versus, there's so many battles, as you said. Obviously, Honor is going to have her hands full defensively as well. I cannot call it, I don't think, because I will. I'm going to say England 2-0.
I was going to say, going to have to one half gas and then just absolutely wimp out.
No, I think England win it 2-0. I think I said before the halfway through the quarterfinals that this is England's tournament to lose now, because I feel like England are the best side left in it. That experience of last year and so on. I think England will get over the line. And that backline, contrary to what people think, I think that backline of England has been a lot better than people have made out. England have leaked a lot, maybe I guess quite a few chances, but they've not leaked a lot of goals. Aside from obviously the one today, China and the one against Colombia.
You've watched the matches, right, Connor? I mean, you saw the same thing we saw.
Look at all of our player of the match polls. Nearly all of them have contained two out of the 4/5 of the back line.
We're just going to forget the fact that we probably should have been 3-1 down before we actually got the 2 goals that we needed. That if Sam Kerr had actually been on fire, she probably would have put at least 2 of those away, and would have at least been going into extra time. We're going to forget the fact that Colombia had loads of chances against us. We're going to forget the fact that Denmark did. We're going to forget the fact that we only managed to put one past Haiti and they were going through us at will, that they couldn't hit a cow's backside with a banjo. Make no mistake about it, the defence has done better than I expected them to. But I told you before this thing started, it's my turn to start, blowing my trumpet now. Mary Apps will be the most important thing, and she was. She has organised that defence brilliantly. But make no mistake about it, that is not a defence that you would want to be going into a major finals with. So, they pulled it round, but I'm not having that. I'll take a lot of the stuff, but not that.
It's all ifs and buts, though, isn't it? If they would have scored,
and it hasn't happened.
But yeah, well, thankfully, because it's been we've managed to keep shows going and keep Laura returning back to the channel. With England keeping winning, it's kept these match reactions go. I think I can't remember whether it was yourself, Barry, really off topic. I was speaking to either Barry or Charlie about this before the tournament, and it was like, I wonder how many Lionesses shows we're going to, because obviously we were lucky last year with the Euros that England got all the way to the final. We had plenty of shows that we could put in, and we've done it again. England have got all the way to the final, so it meant we got the maximum amount of shows that we could possibly.
I'm sure that was Serena's top priority, actually.
I know, she was thinking nothing's going on at United. Got to keep England winning to keep those, keep the fans up. So yeah, I think 2-0, but it's going to be a good final regardless. I think we spoke about it briefly earlier that I think the impact of this tournament, moreover, I think is the bigger thing here, particularly from Australia. Who was it in the post-match interview? Just very quickly from Australia that said this isn't. Was it it might have been the coach actually. That said we didn't lose it. Like this isn't the end of something. It's the start. It might have been the coach that said that.
Or Steph Catley, maybe. I saw it.
Or Catley. I can't remember who it was. Somebody said it in one of the post-match interviews, which was quite nice. I mean, Laura's an Arsenal fan, so I'm not too sure about.
How with that? But I'll be honest with you, Dan. At this current situation, absolutely, like anyone wants my job, they can have it, 100%.
I mean, there we go, Laura. We'll get you on a contract soon. We'll sort that out. Get you on a 1-year loan deal or something. Let's see how it goes.
Then I'll leave on a free at the end.
Oh, you went there. I don't think people. Mate, I don't know whether people heard that or not, but
You just can't spell the word "two" correctly. That's all that was happening. 2 gooners, yes.
Yes, too many. No, it's been good. We've enjoyed having multiple different fans on. We've had Sunderland and Chelsea and Arsenal, neutrals. I'm trying to think now who we've had on throughout the Lionesses ones, but
Listen, we've done brilliantly. We've got what I was going to say 4 English people. We've got somebody here from Holland. There's you, who, if I'm not mistaken, a year ago was like, I don't really like international football. So probably Laura's the only one really you can claim to having been a proper England fan since it started.
We've got another one now. They're taking over in the comments. This was like last or the week before, but it was Laura and Sam. I can't
We're
believe
calling
this.
them over.
Red. I'm not convinced it is. If you looked outside, it's quite dark.
Obviously, welcome to the channel. We've appreciated everyone over this. We've done World Cup rap shows and all those kinds of things. So we will wrap it up there then. Obviously, make sure you. I can get you to shout out your stuff again, Laura, but I'm pretty sure people know where to find you by now. It's in your Twitter that's right there as well. I know you do some writing and some commentary and some things on there as well. So if people want to do that, obviously they can find you on your Twitter Kimberly, for yourself, is there anything you want to shout out while you're on here? Probably should have prepped you this. I didn't say I was going to ask you this.
No, not really. No, I really enjoyed it, and yeah, for me it was the first time like doing a full English show, so hopefully my English wasn't too bad, but
it's better than mine. So.
Better than us, exactly.
No, you've been absolutely brilliant to have on, and like I said, I'm sure we'll see you back on the show and back in the comments in future weeks as well. Said the 3 words. He's gone for it. Charlie's going for the London. We've got a whole magnitude of different fans in the chat, which I've really enjoyed.
Finishing that off with London is Blue, you've got to at least have the decency to go dabba dee dabba da. Otherwise, it's just not fair.
That was such a good song back in the day. That one probably
I've
out
heard
before.
it. Blimey, that's unusual.
It's probably out before I was born. That was. I think
So
was it.
Lion King.
Oh, hang on. Just before we wrap this one up, here we go. When was that song released?
Kimberly, you've seen The Lion King, right?
yeah, I did. But I'm not that old as well, but I've seen The Lion King.
Blue was released in 1998, so the same year I was born. So I wouldn't have been born when that song came out because I was a very early in the year one. So we shall see. Right, we'll wrap it up there before we go massively off piste. This channel will be back live on Sunday. Obviously, following the result of the final, whatever the result, will be live on Sunday. So make sure you come back to that. Obviously, I've had a lot of people watch, a lot of new people watching. So obviously, if you're a fan of England or Spain, or just don't particularly care, make sure you come back for that one. If you're a United fan and watching this, obviously we're expecting a couple of signings. We might get one this week, so I'd keep your eye on the United Women's Twitter account for that one, and keep an eye on ours, because we do have some specials coming, obviously, on our new signings when they are officially announced. So make sure you go and follow in the Twitter at allforunitedvids for all of that as well. Obviously, make sure you're following all of us on here, liking the video and subscribing. Turn the notifications on as well. Why not? So you get notified every time we go live. We shall see you guys in the next one.